Hey guys, it's Mr. Hussey here, 8th grade math. Great to see you guys today. These last few lessons, about 6 lessons of the school year, are going to be very important to get you guys ready for 9th grade. So there's a couple fun things you can do. You can watch me on 1.5 speed and save some time and get some humor there too out of my voice. Or you can just watch me on regular speed. It's up to you. But please pay attention these last few lessons. Finish off the school year well. You guys have been doing a great job. Some of you guys who are getting a little far behind, don't worry. You know, it's not the end of the world. You want to get these made up, and honor God that way. But we don't want you to feel stressed out. So there's different things you can do if you reach out to me and the other teachers, or Mrs. Darling or Mrs. O'Leary. There's some people may possibly get some extended time at the end of the school year for extreme circumstances. So if you feel like that could apply to you and that could help you, let me know. Talk to me or someone else. But this is very important here to get you guys ready for the 9th grade. But this is fun. This stuff's fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at today's lesson. So there's a few things you guys learned earlier in middle school. You learned about something called, and probably even elementary school, you learned about something called right angles, okay, which look like this. So this is a right angle, and these two angles together, this one plus this one, are what we call complementary. All right, so those are called complementary angles. And I would like you to write this down today, okay? Complementary angles, they add up to 90 degrees, okay? So if this angle is 60, then that one has to be 30, right? If this one's 40, that one has to be 50. So complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. We have another type of angle like this one and this one, which we call, those two, when you put them together, are called supplementary angles. And supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees, okay? So this and this, if this one's 30, then that one has to be 150. Okay, if this one's 20, that one has to be 160. So they add up to 180 degrees, okay? We also have something called, you may need to pause me on this part. Even if you have me on 1.5 speed, you may need to pause me here for these two. We'll see. There's another type of angle where they're like directly across from each other, like this one and this one. And these two are what we call vertical angles. And vertical angles have the same measure. Okay, so vertical angles have the same measure. So if this one's 37 degrees, if they tell you this one's 37 degrees, then this one's 37 degrees. Now, coincidentally, this is also vertical to that. So vertical in basketball means up and down, but in math, these are vertical angles because they open up the same amount and they're directly across from each other. But these are also vertical angles with each other, these two, okay? So those are the type of angles we're going to review today. Hopefully this isn't the first time you've learned this. Hopefully this is a review. There's also something called adjacent angles. So adjacent means next to. So like this angle is adjacent to this angle. These two are adjacent because they're next to each other. What else are they? Well, yes, these two are also supplementary. Well, hopefully you said supplementary. These two are also supplementary because they make 180. But they also are adjacent because they're next to each other. Okay, so let's look at what we need to do for today's lesson. Directions. Classify the angle pair as vertical, complementary, or supplementary, and then find the value of x. Okay, so this angle and this angle are vertical angles. So for number 1, we're going to put vertical. Okay, and then the way you do this is to find out what the value for x is. You say, okay, if this one's equal to this one, then we know that 8x plus 31 is equal to 16x minus 9. Okay, and then you can start to solve here. So maybe what if we add a 9, for instance? There's a bunch of things you could do. So now you have 8x plus 40 is equal to 16x. Okay, and then from here we could maybe subtract an 8x. So now you have 40 is equal to 8x. Divide both sides by 8. And you'll get x is equal to 5. Okay. Then you'll take this 5 and you'll pull it all the way up here and plug it in there. And you'll plug it in here. Okay. Now, when you plug in that 5 here, it's 8 times 5, which is 40. And 40 plus 31 is 71 degrees. Okay. So these are big answers here. Vertical is an answer. 71 degrees is an answer. And we know this one has to be, let me not confuse you. This is the angle that's 71. I just wrote it there. This angle is not 71. We could figure out this angle. In fact, this angle would have to be, you add 9, you get up to 80, right? So this angle would have to be 109 if we wanted to figure it out based on this one. And this angle I know is 71 because if this is 71, this is 71, but I'm just going to plug it in just to make sure. So 5 times 16 is 80, and 80 minus 9 is indeed 71 degrees. So the value of x is 5, and then each of the, I guess all you had to do is find the value of x by what the directions say, but I would like you to plug it in and find what these angles are, which is 71 degrees. All right? Okay, so there's number 1. Now, it doesn't work quite that way for everything. So over here on number 2, we first know that these two angles, because they form a straight line with each other, this one plus this one, yes, they are adjacent, but the word we're looking for today is supplementary. Okay, I think of supper as the biggest meal. Most people eat it as the biggest meal of the day, even though they say breakfast should be your biggest meal of the day. Most people, it's supper. So that's why I think a supper 180 is the most. Okay, it's more than the complementary, which is 90. That's how I kind of process it in my head. So these are supplementary. Now, this does not equal that. Like on number 1, they equaled each other. But on this one, we have 7x minus 5. This one plus this one equals 180. So that's why you kind of have to change it up based on what they're looking for in that particular problem. Okay, so this plus that equals 180. So in this circumstance, I'm going to combine some terms. That's 16x. We'll combine these. Minus 12 equals 180. We'll go ahead plus 12. So 16x equals 192. And then we'll divide both sides by 16. So we'll have x equals 1, 2. X equals 12. Okay. Now that's, I guess technically that's all you have to do, but there's going to be many tests you come across, like tests to get you into college and the SAT tests and stuff like that, where they're going to want you to take this and go ahead and plug it into here and here. So if I plug it in here, 7 times 12 is 84. Minus 5 is 79, so this will be 79 degrees. And then if I plug it in here, 9 times 12, I don't know that one, but 9 times 10 is 90, and 9 times 2 is 18, so that'd be 108, minus 7 is 101. And then just to make sure, you can add up this and make sure that they make 180, because they're supplementary, they form a straight line. So 101 plus 79 is indeed 180. So we know we did that correct. All right, good. Now this one, complementary. This one's complementary, right? Because these two together make 90. So the first thing you have to do is write complementary. Okay. And then we'll have to say 3x plus 11. So this one, this guy, plus this guy, is equal to 90 in this case, 90 degrees, right? So we'll combine some like terms, right? We have 11x's plus 13 equals 90. If we subtract 13 here, we're going to get 11x equals 77. And x equals 7, okay? So then we'll come back here, and we'll plug it in. on this one, 3, that's a 7, right? 3 times 7, 21, plus 11. So this should be 32 degrees. And then this one here, it's 8 times 7, which is 56, plus 2 more is 58. And hopefully if we did that correct, 32 plus 58, well, 3 plus a 5, that's an 8 on the left. And then 2 plus 8, that's 10, so 90. So that's correct, they make 90. Okay, so that's how you can do this type of problem. So number 4, you'll do that. Now number 5 through 10, they want you to find the angle measure, kind of like I said something like, well, technically all you have to do is find the x, but then on your SATs, they'll want you to plug it in. Well, down here, they're having you plug it in. So now you know what to do, okay? These two are vertical, right? When you get to something like this, there could be a little bit more confusion involved, like 9 and 10. So maybe we should do one of these together, okay? Before we do 9 and 10, though, let's go real quick, flip to the other page. On one like this, where it says, like, let's look at number 12. They don't show you any pictures, but they say that R and S are complementary, okay? So they give you them. So complementary, you're just going to need to know that this plus this equals what? And hopefully you said 90 degrees, that's correct. For vertical angles, you're going to need to know they equal each other, right? So this one will equal that one. For supplementary angles, you'll have to know that they make 180. Okay? And then 15 and 16 we'll cross off and just say if you want to do those as bonus, you can, but we'll cross those off. If you're done before 40 minutes and want to give it a shot, I would encourage you to, okay? But if you're not, or you just don't have the time to do that today, you can stop at number 14. Okay. So number 11 is going to be like the one I'm going to show you, okay? Where you're going to have to find a whole bunch of things. So you'll have to go back to this one I'm about to show you to get 11. And you'll also have to go back to it to get 10. Okay, so let's look at 9, and let's see how 9 is different. Just slightly more complicated, not much more complicated, but let's look. Okay, so the measure of RTS. So they want you to know from R to T, that they want you to know this measure. Okay, and then they want you to know from angle PTQ. So they want you to know this angle. Okay, I might even, just for fun here, I might even color this one in blue. And I might do this one in pink. If that helps you, you might want to do that. All right. So those are what we're trying to find. Now, the reason this adds one more step of complexity here is because they don't give you any numbers in here. So we're going to have to think a little harder. Okay, so first, let's think about what they do give us, this one and this one. How do these two relate? Okay, well, I know that this and this are vertical because they're across from each other and they're open up the same amount. So these are vertical angles. So I know that 8x minus 17 would have to equal 5x plus 13 because vertical angles are equal to each other. So we know that this has to equal that. Okay. So when I go ahead and work this out, at this stage, we'll divide both sides by 3. So x will equal 10. Okay, so that's the first part of information that's important. Now I can go ahead and take a 10 and plug it back in wherever I see an x. So if I plug it in here, it'd be 5 times 10, which is 50 plus 13. So this would be 63. So I know that one. That one's going to be 63 degrees. All right. And then PTQ gets a little more tricky. So first we have to say, okay, if this is 63, then this is 63. So I know this is 63. And you could double check if you want by plugging a 10 in there. 8 times 10 is 80. And just let it focus here. So 8 times 10 is 80, and minus 17 does give you 63. But we also know that just on the fact that these are vertical angles. So if that's 63, this one has to be. Now, the way you find out this blue one is you just have to look at it in relationship to things we can. And in this situation, we can look at it like this. So we know that this is a 90, right? Why do we know that's a 90? Because this one's a 90, and that's a straight line. So if this is a 90, that must be 90. So 63 plus some mystery number has to give us 90. So we'll come out here in the margin, take 90, subtract 63. And our answer is this has to be 27 degrees. Okay, so this is 27 degrees. And if you wanted to check that out just to make sure you're right, you would add up 63 plus 27, which 0, carry our 1, which is indeed 90 degrees, so we did it right. Okay, so that's how you do problems like that. So for number 10, though, it's going to be the same idea as 9, however, maybe not the same process. So this time, they're giving you these. So instead of setting them equal to each other, you have to say this plus this is 180. Once you have that, it's going to give you some information, and then you're going to work off that information to find the missing numbers. Okay, same as on the back here. Number 11 is going to have the same idea. It's just you're going to have to find more. Okay, so instead of finding 2 of them over here, right, on the page 1, instead of finding 2 angles, instead of finding like 2 things, you're going to have to find 4 based on the same sort of process. Like once you're going to have a situation like this where you get some numbers, and then you're going to have to find a missing number based on like common sense that relates to these definitions based on complementary, vertical, supplementary. All right, so that's your lesson for today. Like I said, it's very important, guys, not to stress you out. You've been doing a wonderful job, but do your very best on this, okay, to lead you up into high school and to make sure that you know this going into 9th grade, okay? God bless you. Have a wonderful day.